I remember we were sitting at the kitchen table, in the dark, and I finally just said it. Do you still love me? My voice was cracking as I nervously weaved back and forth in my chair. I had just taken a long, deep, pain breath, set my heart out on the table, and bared my deepest longings to reconnect. And she was just staring at her hands without any sign of emotion, only indifference. Well, after a pause that seemed like an eternity, I thought she was going to say something, but then her gaze would slowly drop again. Finally, she looked up and, in a soft, flat voice, said, "I'm tired. I think I might go visit my family." And the truth is, I think I might have preferred that she got angry and said, "I hate you and I'm miserable in this marriage." There's a soul-crushing, hopeless emptiness that develops in your stomach when you love someone who doesn't seem to love you back anymore. And the worst part, you can't understand how that's even possible. You just want to scream through the tears. Don't you feel anything? How does everything we've been through now count for nothing? And it's like they become another person. And the worst part is you can remember the person they used to be. Well, you try everything. You tell them you love them. You vow to change and become who they want you to be, even though you aren't really sure who that is. And you apologize again and again for the mistakes that you made. You promise you'll never hurt them again, but nothing seems to get through, and it feels like your whole world is slipping through your fingers. Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. I should have known by the look on her face that night, 3 years earlier. It was one of those relationship-defining moments. You know those moments when everything changes forever? The moments that become reference points for the rest of our lives, where we can easily separate the before and after. For Katie and I, it was December 14, 2001. That was the night I crushed her spirit. It was the night I held my new baby girl for the first time, yet while I adored my precious baby girl, my wife sat across from me, humiliated and demoralized. The thing is, Katie wasn't the mother of my child, and we were sitting in another woman's home. I will never forget the look on her face. It wasn't sadness. We were beyond that. It was something else. It was something more like despair. Something like that numbness that lingers when there are no more tears left to cry. We hadn't been married that long, but now the joys of our fairy tale wedding and the plans that we had now seemed like a dream forgotten. I could still remember her sweet smile as she looked up at me through that wedding veil with more love and adoration than I had ever known from a woman. She pledged her life to me that day. She pledged her love and her dreams of starting a family to me. She wanted a baby more than anything, and God knows we tried. We tried fertility treatments, home remedies, all kinds of crazy stuff, and you name it, we tried it. Then we got pregnant, only to suffer a miscarriage. We were heartbroken. Now here we were, and I was holding my precious baby girl in my arms, and my wife was sitting across from me, eyes dull and lifeless, yet every once in a while smiling politely as if desperately trying to mask the humiliation. Well, after that night, we tried to move on. I got visitation of my daughter, and Katie did her best. She even helped me take care of her. But you could still see the brokenness in her face. For a while, it seemed like we were doing okay. We had children of our own and a successful business. But when you go through such gut-wrenching, soul-killing emotional trauma, the pain takes root, and the bitterness, well, it grows like a cancer that you don't even know is there. And so we just grew apart until it was like we were just roommates. We hardly ever spoke, and when we did, it was just business. We were almost never intimate. We were headed straight for divorce. Imagine a couple driving down a winding mountain road and their brakes go out. The car is picking up speed as the driver frantically struggles to keep it on the road. A curb becomes too tight and they lose control. And when the car finally comes to a stop, it's resting dangerously halfway off a cliff, teetering back and forth as if it could fall at any moment. The driver sits there motionlessly because he knows that one wrong move could send them to their death. Their future hangs by a thread with everything hinging on what he does now. That's what it felt like that night when I asked her if she still loved me. I felt helpless and I was terrified that we were one step away from having to tell my family that divorce papers had been filed. It was the worst moment of our lives, but it was also the best. I know that sounds weird, but you will understand when I tell you the rest of the story. Because it was the hopeless despair that I felt that night that was the reason I accidentally discovered the secret that saved our marriage. A secret that rescued, restored, and revived our relationship. A secret that turned our marriage into that crazy in love couple that makes most people want to gag with jealousy. A secret that makes people think we're newlyweds, even though we've been married for more than 17 years. Need proof? Here's a message my wife Katie posted on Facebook on October 20, 2017, on our 16th wedding anniversary. Now, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story and about how things got worse before I discovered the secret that saved our marriage. But first, I want to tell you why I'm sharing such intimate details with you now. Hi, I'm Dustin, and that pretty girl in the photo with me is my wife, Katie. This is the first time that we've shared our painful story with anyone. Family and friends know bits and pieces, but not the whole story. And I assure you, until now, no one has ever seen some of these photos. I'm sure that you can imagine why we were hesitant. So why am I telling our story now? Because I know what you're going through. And because a friend recently shared with me how her marriage was falling apart. She had been served with divorce papers and her husband said that he just wasn't in love with her anymore. She felt like she was sinking into a dark tunnel and couldn't find her way out. And I wanted to help, but all I found were books and courses from relationship experts and marriage counselors, many of which had never even been married. And here's the thing, they were all teaching the same thing. And yet I read somewhere that divorce rates are about 50%. Divorce rates for second marriages are even higher. So either the statistics are wrong or the experts are wrong. It can make you want to give up. Don't give up, because if this can work for Katie and I, it can work for you to save your marriage. And after you hear the rest of the story, you'll know in your heart that this is what you've been looking for. You'll know that the same secret that saved our marriage can work for you too. Okay, let's get back to the story. You see, things got worse before they got better. And on top of everything else, Katie fell into a deep depression. She almost never got out of bed. I can still remember what it felt like, lying in our king-size bed at night, lying on my side, facing away from each other, and wanting so bad to turn over and try and talk or kiss her and tell her that I loved her, but I didn't know what to say. And more than anything, I was terrified of what her response might be. I wasn't really worried about her getting mad. In some ways, it would have been a relief if she got mad. At least some emotion would have given me something. Indifference is so much worse. It rips your heart into pieces. You look them in the eyes and you can't stop thinking, where are you? Don't you know who I am anymore? Because I don't know who you are. But you don't. You're lying in bed with a stranger and the minutes turn into days and days into weeks and weeks into years until you're just going through the motions. You're living in a relationship that is cold and dead, and it's weird because you used to be so happy and in love. And you're living together and you look the same, but you're not. All that is left are broken memories of what once was, like picture frames that have been knocked to the floor and shattered. You can still see the memory, but it's like you're looking through broken glass. A constant reminder of something that you wish you could forget, and at the same time, you would give anything to get back. It wasn't until that night at the dinner table that I realized our marriage was in real trouble. I couldn't sleep at all that night. I cried so hard my chest hurt, my head was pounding, and all my strength was gone until I just sat there in silence, hopeless, exhausted, broken. Here it was 2:00 in the morning, and I had given up. But I wanted to remember, if only for a moment, who we used to be. And so I pulled down some boxes from the attic, trying to find the video from our wedding. But it was something else I found in an old, partially crushed cardboard box that changed everything for us. Inside that box, buried beneath a stack of old books and magazines, I found a bundle of handwritten love letters from the 1940s between my grandparents. The secret that saved our marriage had been there all along, buried in a bundle of 71-year-old love letters. What I learned that night literally transformed our relationship and saved our marriage. And now, even after 18 years of marriage and everything we've been through, we are still crazy about each other. And today, our marriage is filled with laughter, love, true friendship, playfulness, passion, equality, mutual respect, and constant chaos. And yes, I did say chaos. We have 5 children, 3 dogs, and 2 cats. We often refer to our lives as a whole lot of crazy, and it has been a crazy ride so far, that's for sure. But our lives didn't get any easier after that. Things just got more complicated. But isn't that the real test of the marriage-saving secret that we learned? We went through an exhausting and traumatizing family court battle over my daughter. We were sued by business partners costing tens of thousands of dollars. We went bankrupt twice. We lost everything, including our homes and cars, and yet here we are, stronger, happier, and more in love than ever. Looking back now, I still can't believe it all started with those love letters that I found in the attic. We sometimes just laugh at how crazy it is, after all we've been through and how crazy happy we still are together. For years, our friends would ask us what our secret was, and we would just blow it off. Usually we would make a joke or something. We never considered teaching what we had learned to other people who are struggling to save their marriages. We just never really thought about it, at least not until that night. The night that Ben came knocking at the door at 2 a.m. You could tell he'd been crying. "She's leaving me," he said. His voice was shaky and raspy from pleading, from crying, begging his wife to stay. And as he paced back and forth, rubbing his upper arms and painfully staring into nowhere, he said that she sprang the news on him right out of the blue. He said that it felt like being punched in the gut. After 7 years of marriage and without warning, she just told him the news that she wasn't happy anymore. She said, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you." My heart sank. He said that looking back now, he could see that the signs had been there for years. We just sat there and cried together. Well, I didn't go back to sleep that night. That is when I decided that I had to do something. I had to share what I'd learned with others who are in struggling marriages. Right then and there, Katie and I made the decision that we would share what we had learned with the world. We both knew the principles we learned in those love letters not only saved our marriage from divorce, but also helped us stay in love all these years and maintain a happy marriage and relationship. But here's the thing. I knew what I learned from my grandparents worked for us. But I had to find out if other people knew about this also. I guess I wanted something that would validate what I had learned and why it worked so well. And so every day after work, I stayed up into all hours of the night, drinking coffee, reading everything I could find about love and relationships and marriage. I bought courses from the top relationship gurus and marriage coaches, but it seemed like so much of what I found was just the same old information regurgitated over and over. I read books on what makes a happy marriage and how to save your marriage. I also scoured the internet night after night, reading stories about couples who had been married for 30, 40, even 50 years or more. As I read those beautiful stories, I started seeing a familiar connection between the things they said and did and what I learned from my grandparents. It gave me chills because this gave me the inspiration and the validation I needed that my grandparents really did know something about marriage and how to keep the love alive, even if they didn't really know why. At some point in my research, I stumbled across a Harvard Medical School research study into the neurochemistry of love. I learned that this euphoria we experience when we are in love can be explained by the neurochemistry of the brain. When we meet someone new and fall in love, it stimulates a cocktail of chemicals in our brain. These include dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. I could see so clearly now. This explained how and why what I had learned from my grandparents worked so well to save our marriage and to help us stay happily crazy in love all these years. I was fascinated and I wanted to learn more. And so I searched the internet to see what else I could find on the subject. I found an article called Love in the Brain by Dr. Richard Schwartz and Jacqueline Olds, two Harvard Medical School professors and couples therapists who had done a research study on how love evolves and how it collapses. I learned that the stages of romantic love are closely linked with the neurochemistry of the brain. This explained why it's different when we first meet someone and what happens when love grows cold. And here's the really exciting part for you. The science actually supports that it is possible to reactivate those love chemicals and make someone fall in love with you all over again. All of this explained why what I learned from my grandparents worked so well in saving our marriage and helping us keep the love alive. It is crazy when you think about it. My grandparents knew more about love and romantic relationships than they could ever have even realized. They knew how to make it work, even if they didn't know why it worked. Katie and I are proof this stuff works, and we never doubted it. But after we discovered the science behind it, we were blown away. Everything made perfect sense now. And so, after spending the last 5 years putting all the pieces together, Katie and I are finally ready to share these secrets with the world. We decided to call this program The Shimley Effect, Marriage Reset Intensive. The Shimley Effect Marriage Reset Intensive is a neuroscience-based marriage restoration program that works by pushing the reset button on your relationship to reawaken the love and reignite the passion you once had. And it works even if you are the only one trying. The Marriage Reset Intensive has been painstakingly and deliberately established on the same principles that saved our marriage and has allowed us to stay happily married all these years. This is not a bunch of random relationship theories dreamed up by people who have never been there. This program takes you step by step, showing you exactly what to do to rescue, restore, and revive your marriage. But listen, we know that you don't have the time to dig through all of the research and risk the future of your family on theories or what-if scenarios. That is why we created this program to be a step-by-step, done-for-you system, as much as it can be. The Marriage Reset Intensive is an online course you work through at your convenience from any PC, tablet, or mobile phone. Lesson modules include video lessons, text lessons for those who prefer to read, workbooks and assignments, and downloadable MP3 audio files so that you can listen on the go. As you complete the assignments and exercises, you will be creating your own custom plan for implementing these strategies in your own marriage. This program does not involve any of the following: convincing your spouse to do the program. You won't need your spouse or partner to cooperate in any way if they do not want to. Even though many couples work through this program together, we believe it is one of the most effective programs for those who are trying to save their marriage on their own. There are also no uncomfortable exercises or awkward conversations. You can save that for your therapist. This isn't therapy, and it doesn't involve talking with your spouse about your relationship at all until they are ready and they initiate the conversation. Oh, and there are also no relationship cliches that sound good but don't work. This is a rational, intelligent, neuroscience-based approach. You will learn how the connection between the brain chemistry of love and our most basic human needs can be used to literally hit the reset button and restore the love you once had. The Shimley Effect Marriage Reset Intensive is not like any other program you've ever seen because it was created by a real couple for real couples just like you. Katie and I have been there. We have sat on that cliff teetering back and forth, and we didn't know what to do. All we knew was that the relationship coaches and marriage gurus were all saying about the same thing, and it wasn't working. And so when we created this program, we made a commitment that we would do this as if our own family depended on it. We would not give people some shoddy, half-baked program when the truth about how to have a passionate, happy marriage for life had been right there waiting for us all along. Okay, but we're not naive. We know that some relationships can't be saved. We know that some marriages can't be saved. But we have to try. We've seen the devastation that can occur when relationships fall apart and marriages end in divorce. We've seen what happens to the children and the extended family. That is why we vowed that we would create something that would give people their best shot at saving their marriage. And that is the Shimley Effect Marriage Reset Intensive. Here's a small sample of what you will learn. What I learned from a bundle of love letters from the 1940s that saved our marriage and can do the same for you. You will discover the simple secret that transformed our broken marriage into that crazy in love couple who enjoys open communication, mutual respect, real friendship, and true intimacy. You will learn exactly how to apply the same secrets to your own marriage. You will learn the 5 mistakes that can destroy your chances of ever saving your marriage and how to avoid them. You know, what is so dangerous about these 5 mistakes is that they are things that you're probably doing right now to try and save your relationship, but they can end up having the opposite effect. And here's a warning, 99% of the people we talk to are making at least 3 of these mistakes. And if all you did was stop doing these things, it would dramatically increase your chance of restoring your relationship. You will learn how to restore the foundation of your marriage. If you're like most couples, you've tried most of the relationship advice online. The problem is many of these strategies are only surface level. They're a lot like putting a fresh coat of paint on a floor that's rotting. If it doesn't restore the foundation, it will eventually fall apart again like fireworks that light up the sky only to quickly fizzle out. You will learn how to restore the foundation of your relationship so that you can get back to how it used to be. How to make them fall in love with you all over again, just like when you first met. You might be surprised to learn that the secret to pushing the reset button on your relationship can be found in the beginning, when you first fell in love. It has been there all along, buried in the past. In Module 2, you will learn how to uncover the key to making them fall in love with you all over again. You will learn how to use the chemistry of love to reignite the flame of your first love again. You might be surprised to learn that prominent Harvard Medical School professors support that it's scientifically possible to rekindle that flame that sparked your love in the beginning. And don't worry, it's not complicated. We will show you exactly what to do. The Relationship Recovery Benchmark Equation. When your marriage is in trouble, it can be overwhelming and debilitating. Everyone seems to have advice. The scary thing is rocky relationships can be a lot like a car teetering on the edge of a cliff. Make one wrong move and it can be impossible for things to ever be how they used to be. So how can you know for sure? By asking yourself 2 simple questions, you'll always know in your heart what to do and how to avoid the mistakes that could sabotage your relationship. Katie and I are also going to share our secret to building an affair-proof, crazy in love, happy marriage for life. After reading the stories of hundreds of couples who had been happily married for 30, 40, or even 50 years, we noticed that they all had something in common. It's a way of looking at your relationship. The shocking thing is that it's the exact opposite of how most people look at their relationships, but it's key to having an affair-proof, happy marriage for life, and so much more. Here's what Heather had to say about the Marriage Reset Intensity program.
I just wanted to take a minute to share my experience from the Shimley effect. I really think it's a great investment in your marriage. It's really great for any relationship, really, but particularly marriage. And Dustin and Katie have some very real examples that are very relatable to every relationship. And I've been through counseling before in a previous marriage. And this is a lot different. This is specific things that you can do. And what I really like about it is my husband, sat in there through some of it, but sometimes we just couldn't do it together. And whether he was with me or not, I could still listen to the videos and apply it. So seeing the effects, even when one of us couldn't put the same time into it, was still really, really beneficial. So again, I just think that this is a great investment in your time and in your relationship, because it's the kinds of things that you'll build on for the rest of your life. Definitely very, very helpful.
You will also learn why some of the things you are doing right now to try and save your relationship are probably pushing your spouse further away, and how to instantly turn the tide in your favor. The secret to reconnecting in your marriage. How to rekindle the spark and bring the romance back even better than it used to be. How to save your marriage even when you are the only one who wants to. How to get your spouse to open up and discuss your relationship and actually have it be their idea. What your spouse really means when they say, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you," and what you can do to change everything. How to make your spouse fall in love with you all over again, just like when you first met. How to forgive and be forgiven. How to rebuild broken trust and get over the past. How to stop an argument every single time. And why even the best relationships can fall apart, leaving one with no idea what happened, and how you can push the reset button for a second chance. You'll learn the key to breaking down the walls that your spouse has put up to keep you out, and finally get through to the person that you used to know. What your spouse really means when they say, "I just need some space to find myself," and what you can do to avoid losing them forever. How to deal with online porn addiction that is destroying your relationship and instantly make your spouse crazy with passion for you again. How to respond when your spouse says, "I'm just not happy." You'll learn common misconceptions about happy marriage that are actually causing divorce, and how to find out if it's happening to your relationship. The "it's not you, it's me" fallacy, and how to respond to restore the joy and love back to your marriage. The secret to effective communication and how to get your spouse to really talk with you. how to deal with emotional baggage in your relationship, and much more. So how do you get started? Katie and I realized that investing in a program like this can be scary. We get it. And the truth is, we agonized over what to charge for this program. And I'd be lying if I said we didn't have a few married spats over the issue. I wanted to make sure that we charged enough so that we could pour our heart and souls into helping each and every student save their marriage. I just wanted to make sure that we were able to focus on the people who were just as committed to saving their marriages as we are. I was afraid that if we made it too cheap, people would buy it who were not really serious about doing the work. Initially, I recommended to Katie that we charge $497. When you consider the average cost of divorce is $15,000, marriage counseling can cost anywhere from $70 to $250 per session, not to mention what is really at stake. This would be a bargain even at $497. I even convinced Katie that that was the right price, until she woke me up at 3 a.m. to tell me that she couldn't sleep at night, literally, if we charged $497. She was afraid there would just be too many people who wouldn't be able to afford it. She literally begged and pleaded with me to initially offer the Marriage Reset Intensity program at a big discount to a small number of people to test it out. Well, I agreed on one condition, and I'll come back to that. What this means to you is that if you act right now, you won't have to pay $497. You won't even pay $197, even though it would be a steal at that price. To make a long story short, Katie convinced me to offer the complete Marriage Reset Intensity program for the discounted price of just $67 on one condition if you act now. The one condition we have for giving you access to this full program for only $67 is that you are as serious about saving your marriage as we are, and that you show up and do the work. And this is so that whatever happens, no one, not even your children, will be able to say that you didn't do everything you could to fight for your marriage. And all you have to do to get this incredible discount and get started is to click the button below right now.
Hi, I'm Mike, and this is my wife Chris, and we just completed the Shimley Effect course.
We both found that it was easy to follow along, and we enjoyed listening to Katie and Dustin. And they had some really good ideas about improving your marriage, whether you've been married a long time or a really short time. What was something that you particularly found helpful?
I figured out that my communication skills are probably not the best in the world.
No.
Yeah.
Whoa, there's a surprise there. I like the parts too about where we did our interests. I thought that was helpful. Mm-hmm. And arguing. I think sometimes arguing is an issue.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's something we need to work on. I think that I'm going to recommend this to couples that we know of all different ages, even those just starting out.
Yeah, no matter what your age or how long you've been married, it can be very helpful.
I agree, and I think that even though we've been married, we were discussing this, and I said 42. I always say 42 for some reason, but it's 47 years that we've been married. If you're not careful, I think you can slip back into old habits and just think, oh, who cares about this anymore? But if you want to have a good marriage, or if you're struggling, or even if you do have a great marriage, this course would be very helpful for you.
Yes, it would. I highly recommend it.
Now you might be asking, is this right for you? If any of the following matches your circumstances, this is perfect for you. This is perfect for you if your spouse told you out of the blue and without warning that they want a divorce. Your spouse says they love you, but they're not in love with you. Your spouse is having an affair, but you're willing to forgive and move on. The passion is gone from your relationship, and it feels like you're more like roommates than lovers. Your spouse is cold, detached, and doesn't seem to even care anymore. Online porn addiction is destroying your marriage. Every time you talk, it turns into a full-blown argument. Financial problems are putting a strain on your relationship. You think your spouse is having a midlife crisis and it's causing your marriage problems. You both say you agree that divorce is probably best, but deep down inside, you don't want it. You just want things to be the way they used to be. A family crisis has put a strain on your marriage, and now on top of everything else, your relationship is falling apart when you need it most. Your spouse had an affair, and you want to forgive them and move on, but you just can't seem to move past the pain. And this is perfect for you if you are desperate to turn your relationship around and save your marriage. This program is not for you if your spouse has a restraining order against you, or you are not legally allowed to have contact with them. It's also not for you if your spouse is physically or mentally abusive. If your spouse is physically or mentally abusive, it is recommended that you seek help from your local law enforcement, legal counsel, or a local licensed therapist. If you want this, don't wait. Lock in your discount now, because here's the thing. I'm still convinced that after we allow a small number of people to try this at this crazy low price, that Katie will finally agree, and we may need to triple the price in order to make the numbers work. Honestly, I can't imagine how anyone would pass this up. But because we want to take away every possible obstacle that might get in the way between you taking action now to start saving your marriage and your family, Katie and I are going to back up everything with an incredible 60-day, no hassle, no questions asked satisfaction guarantee. This program has the power to rescue, restore, and revive any relationship. It has the power to save your marriage. It is the advice and guidance we would give to our own children if they were struggling in their own marriages. And so it is because we believe in this program and because we care so much about saving families that we want to remove every barrier for you to make the decision and decide to work with us today. Now, as I've said, no one can guarantee that your marriage can be saved. But we are confident that if you show up, watch the material, and do the work, and give it everything you have, that this is the program that can change everything for you. And we're willing to back that up with a 60-day, money-back, risk-free guarantee. Here's how it works. If at any time within the 60-day return period you feel dissatisfied with your purchase, contact us, and we will gladly refund 100% of the purchase price. Simply click the Get Access Now button and get started saving your marriage now.